In this video, we're going to create a number of different brushes. Now, one of the requests that I get the most is, how do I make my brush as thick, the most impasto that I can possibly have on a brush? So that's the first thing that we're going to do in this video. So we're going to start with, let's start with this round hard brush. Let's open up the brush creator and we're going to reset this back to its default state. Okay, so here you can see we've got some nice impasto. To increase this system-wide, open up visual settings, scroll down in impasto depth. We want to keep that all the way up as high as we possibly can. Now to increase the amount of impasto on this brush itself, we're going to go to here, Oils and Acrylics Impasto. This is in the paint category in the brush creator. We're going to bring this all the way to the right. Max Impasto Smudge. This does not increase the impasto depth, it just makes it gooier and butterier. Right here we've got some really nice impasto depth. Now there is one additional setting that may affect how this brush looks. That is loading. Over here in the properties panel of the brush, if we bring this down and do the exact same thing with the exact same brush, we're going to have a very different effect. So loading, bring this all the way over. Notice how nice and thick that is. Now if we wanted to do a color on the highest parts of this paint, what we can do, we've selected red, we're going to go to loading and bring this way down. Now one thing I recommend is not to have a tapered edge. So what we want to do is we want to take this pen pressure for size and we're going to remove it. Actually, we're going to bring it down to almost nothing. What you can see is that we haven't affected the impasto depth of the paint that's already on the canvas. Here, we've added to it without disturbing it. Again, making sure that we're on paint mode, not paint and blend, paint and mix, or blend, as that will affect the actual texture of the paint. If you like the way that this looks, go ahead and click Save Changes as Default, or duplicate and save that to your favorites folder. All right, so let's make a crispy liner. This would be something like you would see in manga or anime style artwork. It's very flat, there's not any texture, it's just nice and crispy. Okay, so here you can see we've got this really clean, crispy, sharp line. And how do we get there? Okay, so I have Pentel, I've selected Pentel here. We're going to reset this back and we're going to go through these settings from stroke, shape and grain, paint, and visual settings. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the size jitter so it's nice and smooth on the edges. Let's go ahead and make a line here. Now I have line smoothing on so that we have a nice pretty line. I'm going to keep it on for this. You can turn that on or off as you choose. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust scatter. We're going to bring spacing down just a little bit so that it is drawing the shapes a little bit more frequently. Now you can see if we zoom in here that there's still quite a bit of texture. Now what I recommend doing is turning this down to 1 and this up to 100. We can turn smudge on or off, doesn't make too much of a difference. We're going to leave it off right now. Shape and grain, we're going to pick a round with no fuzzy edges. Grain, we're going to choose white. Down here, random splat offset. This won't matter too much because we have a round shape and grain is white. Now here's where we're going to see the most difference. In the texture strength curve editor, we're going to click here to reset the curve, and we're going to drag this all the way to the left. You see that we're getting this really smooth, clean line. Paper texture contrast, we are also going to bring down to 1. And you can see with paper texture contrast, turn down to 1, we're really starting to get there. So let's go ahead and open up visual settings, which is F12. We can turn nanopixel on or off, it's fine. I don't recommend zooming in greater than 200% because when you're actually looking at this anywhere outside of Rebelle, you're not going to have that extra ability to zoom way in like you would with nanopixel turned on, where you can see it looks kind of fuzzy because it's got a paper canvas texture there that's influencing it. Now in canvas visibility, you can adjust paper texture down if you want a very simple canvas with no texture. Nanopixel you can turn on or off. And at this next step, and we're going to turn it off right now, we're going to increase the canvas size and DPI. So let's bring this to 3000, this to 2000, and DPI up to 600, and click OK. Now, again, we don't want to zoom in greater than 200%, but as we draw, you're going to see a very clean, nice looking line. Let's increase the size here. You can see a crispy line, very clean. And if you want, you can go into stroke and adjust opacity so that opacity is not affected by pressure. And you'll get a solid line with a very smooth edge all the way around. Then I'd recommend saving this as a new brush preset and putting it over into your favorites. For our last brush, we're going to make a shadow and light brush, really two brushes. This one, we're going to go into the Express Oils. We're just going to put a little bit of paint down, some yellow, some red, and some blue. And now we're going to make our light and shadow brushes. So for this, I like using markers, but you can use a couple different tools for this. And in the interest of saving a little time, I'm going to show you how I have these set up without talking through all of the details. So here, I have my stroke right here. I am really looking at a couple different properties, and they are in the paint side of it. For light, so here let's zoom in, and I'm going to use this light brush here on this dark blue. Now, you can see as I go over multiple times, I'm getting a lot lighter version of the blue. I have that same blue selected here. Again, if you keep it at the same color that it was at, you can just increase that in a really nice natural way. The lighten, screen, color dodge, and linear dodge are the ones that you would use to do the lightening process. Now for our next one, our shadow brush, I have this set to glaze. The light one, you can have this set to normal or glaze. Here we're going to increase the size. We have the same blue selected. And you can see I can draw a shadow right over the top. You can actually turn on lock transparency and just shadow the pixels that are already there. This is fantastic. Jump back over, add some light, and then use the blend tool to smooth it out if you want. Really powerful and really nice to be able to add shadow and light without having to pick different colors. So this one again is set to glaze and multiply. And we have the opacity turned pretty low. And then on both of these light brushes, you want to have paint mode selected, not paint and blend or blend, because this will do a very different thing. It will blend the colors instead of adding a shadow. Again, you can increase the opacity there if you want it to be a little bit stronger shadow. All right, you guys, I'll have more brush tutorials and tips and tricks on my website, tabletpro.com/rebelle. You can find my brushes there or on the Rebelle website in a blog post that you can find the link to in the description. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this Brush Creator series. Until next time, stay creative and have a wonderful day.